Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast number 301. I'm Ben, and with me here today are the beautiful boys, Dave and Brandon. Now, boys, we've been hyping up that episode 300 for a long time. And, you know, it was a nice milestone. It was nice to have Phil here. He's dead again. But now I just feel hollow and empty because, like, what do we look forward to next after 300? What is meaningful enough to celebrate?
369.
That's like over a year away, Dave.
420?
Yeah.
That's way longer than a year away.
Well, you didn't... that's okay.
We could celebrate every episode, Ben.
Yeah.
Because every
That's what I've been
episode
saying all along.
is an opportunity to talk about video games with the boys. So it's about, you know, the experience we had along the way. Truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
What percentage of weekly podcasts, though, do you think reach 300 episodes? It's worth celebrating, right?
I'd say if a show reaches past 20, there's a pretty good chance they're making it to 100. And if they reach 100, pretty good chance they're making it to 300. But I don't know what the statistic is now anymore, especially now that podcasts are on YouTube and everything else. But there was at one point, like, I want to say like 80% of podcasts that were started didn't make it past the 7th episode. So,
that sounds about right.
Looks like we made it.
Good. We should have celebrated episode 8 then.
Right?
That should have been the big one.
How do you know we didn't?
We can go back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you?
No, probably not. I don't remember, Dave. That was 292 weeks ago. There's no chance I remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Chat's popping off. Hello, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is the HP podcast. We talk about video games and all that kind of stuff. You can support us on Patreon over at patreon.com/handsomephantom. I don't know, guys, there's something I still have to look over at the side to read the website's name. I have said that twice an episode at minimum for several hundred weeks in a row now, and I'm still like, what's the website again? Patreon.com/handsomephantom. Sorry. Go over there. Support us for as little as $1 a month. We appreciate it. I know there's some of you out there. There's a lot of you out there that don't support us there. And that's, if you don't want to, that's fine. Maybe you just forgot. This is your opportunity. I won't be offended if you got us on one monitor, you got Patreon on the other monitor, you're signing up, helping us pay the bills. We appreciate it. Well, if you just want to hang out for free, you're welcome to do that. You can also join us over on Discord for free. No obligation necessary. No obligation necessary. No obligation included. handsomephantom.com/Discord. We like hanging out with everybody there, talking about off-the-wall stuff. It's a good time. Guys, anything exciting happen in your lives this week?
I carved some pumpkins yesterday.
Oh, well, hell yeah.
That's always fun. I think that's the kind of thing that, you start doing as a kid, and even now that I'm 37, it's still a good time.
What did you carve it into?
I keep it simple, Brandon. Just couple scary looking eyes and a jack-o'-lantern mouth, because I've done I've attempted the complex stuff before, and it's just a mess, because with pumpkins, if you screw up, it's kind of hard to erase the mistake. So yeah, I just keep it simple. I get a pumpkin carved in 30 minutes, but it's fun. It's a good time. I strongly suggest it.
What'd you do with the seeds, buddy?
So we put them in compost. We normally like bake them and eat them, but after last year, I realized I really don't like pumpkin seeds. So yeah, I don't know. And my wife was just like, I can't be bothered this year, so they just went right in the compost. But
the last couple times I've wanted to take the seeds and bake them and everything, I've done it, but then recently I was like, they sell these already made at Walmart for like $1.50 a bag, and I don't have to get all messy while I'm doing it.
And
personally,
flavored.
You could probably get flavored too. Yeah, I don't really understand. Not that I don't understand. I don't like the pumpkin carving thing. It's fun. I mean, doing it with the kids and everything, making memories, that kind of stuff's good. But I just kind of find it stupid, pointless for me.
Damn,
I'm like,
dude.
why am I doing this? Like, who cares?
do you
I don't
decorate
know.
your house for Halloween at all? Did you give out candy?
Well, we gave out candy when our kids were too young to go out, or before we had kids. But now that we have kids, we take them out every year. We go
Right.
get candy elsewhere.
So no one's home.
And I gotta say, I'm sure there's pumpkins along the paths that we taking the kids trick or treating. Couldn't tell you though. Never really paid attention to them. Never noticed them.
Well,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I maintain it's fun.
I
It's a lot of fun.
have no problem with you having fun with it.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, Dave. The simple face is elite.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a nice, simple pumpkin to ward off the spirits.
Yep.
My one buddy that I play Sea of Thieves with pretty frequently, he sent me a picture. He carved his pumpkin into the Joker, one of the Jokers from Balatro. So that was cool. I thought that was neat,
It's cool.
but I don't want to do
Sounds
it.
complex. Yeah, it sounds.
And if he hadn't
sounds
sent me a
difficult.
picture of it, I probably wouldn't have walked past it on the sidewalk and not give it a second thought.
I don't know, man. Something about it.
I just keep saying things and then you stare at me and I'm like desperate for your approval, Dave, right now. Please affirm me.
Yeah, no, you're affirmed.
Thank you.
You have my
Appreciate
blessing. Do you feel better? I wouldn't.
I feel very hollow right now, actually.
Like
Yeah.
a pumpkin
It's
that's
so-
been carved.
Yeah.
I'll fill you in, buddy.
Do you guys like pumpkin pie?
Yeah, of course.
No.
Okay, debate. I love pumpkin pie with lots of whipped cream.
Do you like pumpkin anything, Dave?
I have to admit, this might come as a bit of a shock. The pumpkin spice stuff including like the pumpkin craft beer that we get this time of year, I am a bit partial to. But I don't, you know what? I don't know if I've had pumpkin pie, but the thought of it and the look of it just turns me off.
You've never had pumpkin pie?
I don't think so. No.
So when I said, do you guys like pumpkin pie? And you said no, you were being a liar.
Well, okay. So the reason I haven't had pumpkin pie is because I don't like the look of it. So I think that's enough for me to say I don't want it. I don't like it. It just, do you know what I mean?
So your food has to be pretty.
Well, I mean, it has to be approachable, you know. We're about to talk about Concord and why did that game fail, because it was the pumpkin pie of games as a service, you know.
So you're saying that pumpkin pie may be the least approachable looking pie? Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah, I'm comfortable saying that. Why do you like pumpkin pie? Sell it to me.
What about a key lime?
Because it tastes good.
Would you say a key lime was intimidating as well?
No, key lime looks good, but just pumpkin. It's the weird orange brownie thing. It's no.
Okay, so here's the thing, Dave. I always give our
Ed
buddy
Walton
Dustin.
just agreed with me. That's the first time in 2.5 years I've been on this show he's agreed with me. So we can just wrap it up there.
Dustin, I give Dustin a hard time because he always says he doesn't like pickles, but to his knowledge, he's never eaten a pickle. And I say, oh, you can't say you don't like something if you never tried it. Whatever. You could say you don't want it. You could say whatever.
Well,
but he came around and he gave me a perspective, and he was like, I don't want to eat something that I think smells bad because so much of taste is smell. And I was like, you know what? You have a point. I still think you're wrong, but at least respect it. But if you want me to also accept if something doesn't look good, that it can't taste good, I don't think I can abide by that because I eat lots of stuff that looks like garbage, but it tastes delicious.
yeah, that's fair. But I've made the choice not to try it because I don't like the look of it. I'm not definitively saying that it tastes bad, but I just have decided not to try pumpkin pie for that reason. So,
Dave, is there a scenario in which you would try a pumpkin pie for me, your dear friend?
yeah. I mean, after this discussion, if I would try it to, fulfill you, full circle moment. But yeah, I don't know.
I think you have to. I don't really like the spice part of pumpkin things. I feel like that's the least enticing part of it all, but I do like pumpkin flavor greatly in general. The color does not turn me off. Dave, would you be interested in a nice pea soup? It's a liquid that is green. Would that kind of do something for you?
So the best part about split pea soup is the
No, he meant urine soup. Sorry, I don't know.
No.
the best part about a split pea soup is whatever cured ham you put in it. Yeah, I think the split pea is just the vessel for eating, bacon in a soup. So, but I will tolerate that. And
There is such a thing as bacon soup, though, too.
Your point is well received. But
Okay. All right.
yeah, but the texture kind of it works. But yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had pea soup, but because it's made of peas, I know I don't like it. If it tastes like peas, I don't like it. If you're saying pea soup doesn't taste like peas, I would try it. But I don't like peas.
You've
I
never
know
had
that
pea
because
soup?
I've eaten peas. I probably actually have had pea soup, but I was just making a point.
Yeah. Fair enough.
What the fuck?
What? Do you like pea soup?
No, I'm just trying to digest all of this. We've talked about a lot here, and food means a lot to me, so I'm just trying to take it
know.
all in. I've learned crucial things about my friend Dave today, and his taste in pies, and his visual taste in foods. I'll keep this in mind.
Fruit pies in general are not vegetable, anything like I think pie should be savory. I'm a shepherd's pie kind of guy.
You would like pumpkin pie then? Not shepherd. It's not
no,
like
because
shepherd's
it's
pie, but
sweet. That's a sweet pie.
Only if you top it with a shit ton of whipped cream, which I don't like to do.
it is the appropriate way. But it needs to be. I mean, it's good on its own too.
What about like a rhubarb pie?
See, again, good, but I prefer a pie that's savory.
See, you
That
said
is a
shepherd's
savory
pie. Shepherd's pie is like slop my mom used to put on my plate when I was in elementary school.
I feel like I'm being kind of targeted here.
I want to
Is there any
understand
news
it.
today?
I want to understand it. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry. Dave's like, I just had a long fucking day, and these assholes for 15 minutes have
It's
been
like the worst
bitching
job
at
interview
me.
ever.
So what if we dyed the pumpkin pie a different, more enticing color?
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them.
I'm sorry, Dave.
That's okay.
Concord is dead officially, finally. We already knew it was on its way. But as of today, PlayStation released a statement saying that they are closing, not only they're going to be done with the game entirely, but also that they're closing Firewalk. Let me read this article here from Video Games Chronicle. It says Firewalk Studios will be permanently closed, Sony Interactive Entertainment said in a statement on Tuesday, as well as mobile game developer Neon Koi. Sony announced plans to take Concord offline, pull the game from sale, and offer refunds to all players who bought it just 2 weeks after it launched in August, citing a poor reception from players. At the time, Sony said it would explore the possibility of bringing the game back in a revised form. However, in Tuesday's statement, PlayStation co-CEO Herman Hulst confirmed the company had decided not to move forward with the title. Quote, regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land enough with enough players. And as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close Firewalk Studios. I want to thank all Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. He added, also, the PvP first-person shooter genre is a competitive space that's continuously evolving, and unfortunately, we did not hit our targets with this title. We'll take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area. Etc., etc., etc. Boys, this feels like just beating a dead horse at this point. And that's fine, but this is a bigger step because I think we all assumed Concord was gone. Maybe it could come back, but it was never going to be successful. But we had only been able to speculate, really, on the future of Firewalk. And this is a big one, in my opinion. Not because Firewalk has some, incredible pedigree or something behind them, as a studio. Maybe they have individuals that have great pedigree, but as a studio. But they were a baby of Herman Hulst, and then they spent a lot of money. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, it's I guess we can officially call Sony's first foray into first party games as a service as an unmitigated failure. And this is, I think a failure is kind of shortchanging it, because this is a disaster, and it really has to go down as one of the most profane cautionary tales in video gaming, because this is just awful. Like it's brutal for everybody involved. It's brutal for the gamers who bought the game, and like Concord was a decent game. People by all accounts were enjoying it. And for it to be killed off, like not just die off, but be killed this quickly it's insane. And what I really want to know is, what has Sony learned from this? Because as we know, this was their first sort of big step into this kind of market, and they went out and they created a studio for this and invested a lot of money. And as we know with games like this, like their leashes are really, really short. But even with that said, like this is a crazy turnaround for something this big. But I do wonder if Sony has learned from this, and I kind of think of some of the lessons they probably should learn from. One of them is, like, obviously we talked about it at length, but probably don't put a price tag on a new IP in a subgenre that is generally free to play. That's probably a good one. Another thing I was hearing quite a bit was one of the reasons why Concord was pulled so quickly is because of how ambitious the post-release development of this game was. So it wasn't just a battle pass with cosmetics. Like, it wasn't like they had this whole story content delivery plan that predictably cost them tons, or was going to cost them tons of money, that, they just had to abandon so quickly because this was such a high risk for them. So I think putting out a brand new IP like this and making it that expensive to kind of support post-launch was a big mistake. And just going back to like the new IP thing, like Sony has so many pre-existing IP assets that it could have leaned on to make this successful. Like I'm not saying go out and make like a Killzone free to play shooter, although that would have been cool. But like their decision to go new IP here, I think also was not a good idea because they just had so much they could have pulled from to make this successful. And one of the biggest reasons why people were so turned off about this was they saw the characters and they were like, this, I can't connect to this. Like and Sony just had so much that they could have put in front of gamers that would have been appealing. So those are the three big lessons to me that I hope Sony learns from, because they have the resources and assets to try again, and I hope they do. But yeah, this is going to go down in history as one of the worst things. So, and I just want to finish off. I just really feel for all the people who poured a lot of time and effort into Concord and really didn't have their own fates in their own hands and have lost their jobs today, and that really sucks. So, yeah,
Brendan, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement with Dave here. Honestly, some part of me did think it was going to come back in some fashion. I do find this news to be a little bit surprising. The fact that they wouldn't want to recoup any of their loss whatsoever. Now, I don't think that they would have been able to do much. As you said, Ben, I think that this is kind of a failed to launch situation, but I don't know, with how much time and energy, and even Dave saying it, the entire post-launch content, I mean, I'd imagine a lot of the beginning stuff for that roadmap was already pretty near complete, or like pretty complete, almost ready type of thing. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't at least try to pivot to mitigate some of the loss. Made it free to play, maybe worked in some microtransactions just to get something out of it. I know that does cost servers, but yeah, it's really surprising to me that they just took the entire L. Like, they didn't even try to make it any better whatsoever. They just cut their losses, which happens sometimes, but never to this scale. So yeah, I mean, just what Dave said, it obviously sucks that all these people that clearly had some sort of vision for it, put a lot of love into this. The public didn't resonate with it at all. And I don't know that that was necessarily any one person's fault, but the combined efforts of all of them just kind of fell completely flat. And yeah, it's just weird to me that we're not seeing this at all, that we're just kind of, I don't know. It's too much money and too much time. It doesn't seem right to do nothing with it, but they decided that this is what they're going to do. So that's what's strange to me about this, about all of this.
Getting choked up about Concord, Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I'd say, Brandon, my guess, and I'm no economist or lawyer or anything like that, but from other smarter people than me that I've heard talk about it, there is the potential of them being able to write it down if no one else has received, if they didn't receive any financial benefit from it, which is one of the reasons maybe they refunded everybody. But if no one else is able to pay for it, then to write it down would be the best case scenario for them, because they probably had some people come in and run numbers and check the books and figure everything out. Like, best case scenario, you sell this many copies, you maybe make this much money, and there's a pretty good chance that that amount of money wasn't worth it.
Right.
Wasn't more than the money they would get from the tax cut. They're not going to make all that back, but if that loss can offset some of their income, then it's probably more worth it to them for sure. I think the most entertaining thing to me, and by entertaining I also mean sad, we heard a lot about how Herman Hulst was really championing this game, and I'm sure Jim Ryan was a big fan of it too. And it's interesting to me that the two people that were most responsible for greenlighting and pushing Concord in the specific direction and spending all that money, one of them retired, one of them got promoted, and then he turned around and fired them for the failure that he helped create. That's maybe a little rough, a little brutal, but I do think it's probably the definition of the word irony, if I would have to say.
Yeah.
I think he's the one, does he ever have to take an L with his boss? And probably.
I'm sure he did.
Probably he will.
I'm sure he did, but he's not going to lose his job.
No,
so.
in fact, that he got promoted, after the fact, or during the fact, I guess. So, yeah. sad situation all around, obviously, for all the developers, people who are out of jobs. Hopefully, they'll be able to land on their feet. And yeah, it clearly wasn't the game people wanted. There's not probably one single person responsible for that. It's probably a combination of many things and environmental factors. But even if it was someone's fault directly, I still want them to be able to provide for themselves and have a living. So, somebody asked, everybody excited for Fair Games? Yeah, the rest of what we know for live service wise that's coming out from Sony doesn't look a whole lot more appealing to me than this did.
Yeah.
So we'll see. As a matter of fact, I mean, I played the Concord beta, and as I've said before, I had fun. I wasn't somebody who was willing to spend $40 on it, or what, 40 or $50,
Right.
but it was okay.
Well, another point that I think is notable is that why was the decision to just close down? Why was the decision not to liquidate into other facets of the company? Because we know they've done that before. Like,
Well, that's why they've already done that. They probably don't have any more
Yeah.
space.
yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it just.
I know I
sucks.
just jumped your gun, but
No, it's okay. I mean, I guess I want it to be positive.
yeah,
it's just not like I was. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think for them to say, "Well, we're going to shut you down," versus saying, "We're going to stick you in a bunch of roles that we'll probably have to lay off in a couple of years because we actually don't need you." What's better? Give them the opportunity to leave now, or pity?
Well, the
Give them
question
a
is
pity
what's-
job and
What's cheaper
take it away.
at the end of the day?
Well, that's definitely the real question for the corporation.
well, I know which one's cheaper.
Yeah. Radic wants to know any thoughts on the Neon Koi angle. Will Sony ever make a good mobile game? Neon Koi is the other developer they announced they were going to shut down. I didn't even mention that. They were working on a mobile game. I actually personally don't know if we have a lot of details, although there may be details out there. But Sony was working on essentially a first-party mobile game. There's a lot of money in mobile, but there's a lot of money in a few apps, not in all of them. And I think they probably saw that writing on the wall as well, but that's just a guess. You guys have any thoughts there on the mobile aspect?
No, I think you're pretty spot on there.
Let's move on. Concord is dead. And we'll get to see that secret level still. So, secret level episode.
I
pretty
doubt
soon.
it.
I think they'll still put it out. I think they'll put,
Dude,
because there could be a good story there. It could be a good short, even if it's not a good video game, right?
I
bet
say
they'll put it out.
I say they switch it with Helldivers.
It's like coming out soon. They don't have time to make another whole, yeah. And I think there
Scrap
is
it,
Helldivers
baby.
in there, yeah. The U.S. Oh, let me find this article. The U.S. Copyright Office will not expand an exemption to the DMCA rules that would allow for video game preservation in libraries and archives. Since 2021, the Video Game History Foundation has been working with the Software Preservation Network to find a way for libraries and archives to remotely share digital access to out-of-print games, which are currently forbidden by Section 1201 of the DMCA. In its own statement, the VGHF said it was disappointed by the office's decision. Preserving games has been a long-standing issue in the industry, both in and outside the U.S., and the VGHF has previously made moves to preserve, celebrate, and teach the history of video games. Last year, the foundation released a study saying 87% of games released prior to 2010 in the country were virtually inaccessible. In page 191 of the Register's recommendation, the office cited comments from the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, which claimed preservation supporters like VGHF did propose a clear requirement to know who the users are or why they would want to access a game. Likewise, it suggested those lack of requirements meant supporters aimed to reserve almost complete discretion in how they would provide access to preserve old games. This goes on to say that the ESA has repeatedly pushed back against game preservation efforts and obviously continued to do so here. And they basically said that a substantial market still exists for classic games, including secondary markets. Now, well, yeah, I understand some of the reasons why you don't want to just have blanket preservation, because it leads to piracy. When it comes to really super old games, I don't know if there's a victim, but that's beside the point. It's still the law, so whatever. But I don't understand why moving forward, why going way back we can't preserve these games, especially the ones that are, stranded on old hardware and maybe not even physical, especially those. But anyway, what do you guys think about this? We talk a lot about, physical digital media preservation, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, maybe none of it really actually matters the way we think it does. But obviously, the VGHF has been working for something here and got shut down.
Yeah, no, I think the VGHF is doing really good work. It's kind of sad to see that the ESA is kind of fighting against what I think is the right call. This is actually a pretty crazy stat that 87% of games released prior to 2010 were virtually inaccessible. And even though there are concerns, and I would understand where you're coming from, Ben, piracy could be a problem as far as this is concerned. I think that number kind of speaks for itself that,
Just to clarify, I don't agree with those concerns. I'm just saying
Right.
I understand them. Yeah, okay.
right. No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think that's kind of the spin is that it really is a money play. I don't know, because they want to be able to sell you something instead of you stealing it, essentially. But the bigger problem in my eyes is that, instead of us being concerned of where the money's being made, 87% of games prior to 2010 are inaccessible. And how much longer until those games just dwindle from existence? How many games have already dwindled from existence? I think there's websites that are like dedicated. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, to like games that are just like completely gone? I can't remember what it's called, that are just completely inaccessible 100%.
I know what you mean, but I don't know what it's called. Yeah.
There is a website out there that has like lists of every game that is quite literally out of existence now. Like you're not able to play it anymore. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And so even though I understand that the ESA probably has some moral obligations to kind of protect the people who have interests in these titles, I think that the bigger problem as a whole is that we're losing valuable amounts of history and data and culture. And yeah, it's just sad to see. I know that this sort of thing's not going to come easily. And even though people are fighting for it, I think we're going to continue to have this problem, and more games get lost every day. So yeah, it's disheartening, especially for someone who's such a fan of the medium, because it's going to get worse. So especially with the rise of digital, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, because soon, there won't be physical. And that's how some of these things are still around, even, I would imagine, is because there's physical, tangible copies of them. And once that completely goes away or is next to non-existent, what do you have? What can you have? Nothing, if we don't protect it. So yeah, this is sad news, boys.
I think about one of those games that kind of almost completely disappeared was Scott Pilgrim on the 360. Or maybe was it on the PS3 as well? I can't recall, but at any rate, it was on the 360, and it had been delisted, and of course, many years had gone by. Now, yeah, it was re-released, and it's it's available now. It even came out in physical copies, whatever. But had it not, and had it just remained unlisted at a time when it was still popular, it was unlisted. Eventually, all those machines break, or all the people who have the ownership to download that file again die, or quit playing games, and eventually that game just is no longer accessible at all. And I think that's a classic example. That's why it's cited so often by me specifically, but many others as well, of games in that situation. Dave, you've recently gotten into retro collecting, and again, not necessarily talking about physical versus digital games here. We're talking about preserving our history.
Yeah, I saw a video a little while ago about how a lot of the older games for Windows PC titles were like they didn't work anymore, even if you had the disc, because they had this like executable security check that needed to run that no longer worked. Mm-hmm. So like you weren't, even though you had the disc, you couldn't actually install it because the process to check on Microsoft servers if you own the game didn't. So yeah, there's a lot of really weird stuff like that, and I don't know. Does this prove that ESA is in bed with Nintendo because of their stance on this? Their statement in this article from 2023, where it says preservation is an issue to be handled by publishers and their affiliates, not historians or activists of any kind. I think I get the logic there, but I think to expect that there would be a unified and consistent effort coming from publishers who are profit first is kind of naive. It's sort of like expecting big corporations to have environmentalism front of mind. Like, yeah, they'll say it in like press releases and stuff, but at the end of the day, what makes the most money is what's going to be important. And I think preservation is just not something that's front of mind for a lot of these companies, especially when it comes at the cost of making money. So I just want to echo what Brandon said. I think this group, I can't remember the NH whatever, the preservation group, is doing really good work, and it sounds like they're not going to quit, which is great. Because yeah, this stuff is just going to start to disappear, and a lot of it already has. So I think we need more bodies like this to kind of come together and preserve these games, because we're already starting to see it. And yeah, with the digitization of video games, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand the perspectives of, oh, this could be used for pirating means and everything, but like, then codify it into the rule that these can be preserved, but they have to be preserved in this way and by these people and whatever, you know. And you making the example of people who should be responsible. It's like asking a soldier on a battlefield to make sure that they preserve all the remnants and the flag and everything else that was carried around.
Right.
It's like, no, somebody else is going to come in and make sure that's all. I'm not going to ask the soldier that carried the flag to make sure his family keeps it for hundreds of years or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I might reach out to this board with a suggestion. Do you guys know the seed vault? The vault that has all the seeds. It's like
Yeah.
So what if I'm just saying? What if? What if it can never be pirated if all of the video games are in a seed vault? More or less. I think I'm onto something here, boys.
You could probably put them all in like a Raspberry Pi, and then
Just one Raspberry Pi in the middle of a giant vault. It's like the Unabomber's fucking shelter in the middle of the CIA warehouse. It's just like on the floor.
oh man. Let's move on. Games Radar says No Man's Sky engine programmer Martin Griffiths recently fixed a game-breaking visual bug found in a fan's 600-plus hour save, and it was well worth the extra time to him considering the player's own investment in the ever-expanding space game. As Griffiths describes in his post on the afflicted 611-hour save, helping fix bugs for such devoted players is a priority. Although every bug is important, we can't help but take extra time when the save is in the hundreds or thousands of hours. I think the record is over 4,000 hours. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I'm okay. He then
Choke
delves
up about
into
this.
Yeah, this is
It's beautiful.
Somebody else finish.
It's
Somebody
beautiful.
else finish reading this. I can't.
It's
Seriously,
beautiful.
I'm like all coughing and
I don't know where you left off, Bob.
I got it. As Griffiths describes in his post on the afflicted 611-hour save, helping fix bugs for such devoted players is a priority for Hello Games. Although every bug is important, we can't help but take extra time when the save is in the hundreds. Oh, I'm there again.
The save. Motherfucker saved the save file.
Got it. Brandon's just trying to cover up the fact he can't read.
No, dude, I was desperately trying to see where you were. I tried to catch up the second time, and I still couldn't figure out where you were in the article.
Too, Ben, I'm sorry.
Okay, long story short, they fixed it.
That's what I said. That's what I said, bro. Dude, this is awesome. What the fuck is No Man's Sky? Like, is it maybe the greatest redemption arc of all time? So not only are they like endlessly generous after, you know, selling everybody a load of shit, but now they're like fixing people's bugged files. This is actually unheard of. I may be wrong, boys. This sounds like something no video game company would ever fucking do for anybody. Am I wrong here?
I'd say it's something nobody would do for one person. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It seems like unprecedented to me. And
They
maybe
actually-
someone in chat. Go ahead.
They actually mentioned in the story how they passed it off to QA to ensure that it was you could reproduce it. So I think like if if they can't reproduce it, the fact that they did this for one guy is pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
definitely cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess No Man's Sky is really the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck to say about this. This is a crazy story.
It is nice to see a story like this centered around an engine developer. What was this title? Engine programmer. I think we need more of this. I know they're busy, but it's nice to see someone from a studio deep in the trenches kind of making news like this. And also, good on Hello Games for kind of publicizing this the way they did. I know it came through Twitter, but this is great PR, and this kind of stuff looks great on a studio. And as you mentioned, Brandon, like, we're a long way away from the launch of this game, but what this made me think of is do you guys report bugs? Are you in the habit of reporting bugs, even though, you know, sometimes you don't necessarily get a direct answer for it?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. I mean, you have the, you know, when PlayStation the game crashes, you have the thing that asks if you want to submit and everything like that. But typically, I'll just submit it. But if I'm on PC or something, then I'll actually type a little sentence or two. And then also, like, I've done, I mean, it's a different thing, but a few insiders programs or betas or whatever, and I'll actually go through and type stuff up and try to send it to them, because I think I want my enjoyment to be better of the game. So of course you want to pass that on if you can.
Yeah.
Brandon?
Yeah, I just like to complain.
I
and not be constructive whatsoever. Because and I hate to be that way, but like the reality is that I'm so amazed by this story, because this isn't what typically happens. Like, even in chat, Alex Eyes Twice says, yeah, a friend had a bug save file in Borderlands 3 for a year, and Gearbox didn't bother to do anything, just gave him free shift keys. So, like, I'm not saying it doesn't help, and I'm in agreement with you guys. I should be doing this because it is a net positive, especially for smaller teams. Maybe it gets lost in the sauce with these big developers. But it is important, and I should do something about it. But I feel like my brain says nothing's going to happen, which is not necessarily right.
Yeah. I need to do it more too. I think, like you, Ben, I do the accept and report on PlayStation, but who knows what actually happens there. The one time I did do it was with Skull and Bones, because it was preventing me from getting my platinum. So in that case, I actually did the Reddit forum research and was like, this is a bug. Like, people need to know about this. And I knew it wasn't just me at that point. So that's when I had the confidence to do it. But I guess the PSA takeaway from this is report your bugs, people. It can help yourself and a lot of other people.
Sean Murray will come to your house and fix it.
He will come kiss your mom.
And if we knew about Alex's friend with the Borderlands 3 issue, we would have mentioned something to Randy, because we run into him quite regularly. You know,
that's right. What we used to when we went places.
Yeah.
Hey, my friend on this podcast.
Yeah.
This guy in our Discord, he wanted me to let you know. Yeah, it's the one time I do actually go pretty in depth with any bug is specifically with Adobe products, because I hate them so much. I take it as an opportunity to rip them apart in a forum that they may actually read. But I use Adobe literally every day. I use different Adobe products every day. And I also want them to fix it, because, like, I'll go and research a bug or something that happens to me, and it's like, all these people have this problem from years ago, and it's just, they're all unresolved. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're not reading forums. Maybe I'll just, go submit the bug myself. And I don't want to attribute it to me, but there have been a few instances where I've been having a consistent problem, and then it gets fixed eventually in a future update. And I always just like, maybe I was one of hundreds of people who was experiencing that problem, but somehow it got fixed. They didn't find out about it on their own. Very little chance that they were doing the exact same function I was doing in the same order. So I'm kind of neurotic with Adobe stuff specifically.
Because it's so shitty for how much you pay for.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's almost like you're like, fuck you, I paid so much money for this. I'm going to bitch anywhere that I can constructively. Like,
yes, correct. Number 4. This will lead into our what have you been playing section. Warzone. No, sorry. Let me start over. This comes from thegamingstreet.com. And it says Call of Duty Black Ops 6 launched to an impressive start, surpassing the peak concurrent player count of both Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 on Steam, yet still falling short of Warzone 2.0's record numbers. Data from the player tracking site SteamDB reveals that Black Ops 6 reached a peak of 306,460 players in its first weekend, well above Modern Warfare 2's debut peak of 263,174, and Modern Warfare 3's 190,707. Warzone 2, however, retains the highest peak amongst recent Call of Duty releases, drawing 491,670 players during its launch weekend. The gap highlights the appeal of Warzone 2.0's free-to-play model compared to Black Ops 6, priced at $69.99. Of course, this is only, by the way, this is only Steam. This is not including Battle.net on PC, as well as Xbox and PlayStation consoles. It's on last gen as well as current gen. Is that right? Yeah. So this is a big launch. Obviously, it's Call of Duty. It's going to be a big launch. But I want to hear you guys sound off about this. And obviously, Warzone is free to play, so it's going to have a slightly bigger launch. But this isn't that much smaller for being a full price game, in my opinion. Brandon, take it away.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the sticking point is what you said, Ben, is that like I think this is a monumental achievement for them because even in spite of Warzone being free, they're on its heels. We've said many, many times they had something to prove this year, and we'll get a little bit more into it. But they've definitely broken some of their expectations. I'm positive of it. I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple days if we're getting tweets from Microsoft, we're getting tweets from Activision stating milestones, because I think we're going to get some really big milestones this time around. I think we might even break some records. So, yeah, this is great. I think the game's great. I want to be very careful about how I talk about it this episode because I know it's a very exciting thing for me because I'm very nostalgic about Call of Duty, and I'm really trying to come at it in a very not jerk it off kind of way. Does that make sense? That's the least eloquent way that I could have put it, but like
you don't want to fellatiate it. Is what you're
right,
saying.
right, yeah. I don't want to work the balls. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't, Mr. Activision. But no, this is good. This is good, especially for someone who's a fan of the series. I don't think that they needed the numbers. I mean, I kind of toe the line of like wanting them to fail and wanting them to succeed because I love the series, but I also am not necessarily always rooting for the big guys, and they are like the biggest guys in gaming pretty much aside from the sports people. So it's good for me because I want a good experience, but I don't know, boys. I'm conflicted. This is good news though overall. Dave, what do you think?
I have to eat my words here because when it was first announced that, or confirmed that Blops 6 was going to be on Game Pass day one, I said this would be the worst selling Call of Duty in franchise history. And of course I was referring to the fact that everybody's going to flock to Game Pass, but this just shows I was wrong because you said these are Steam numbers. These are people who've paid full price.
Yes.
And this is the first Call of Duty that is day one on Game Pass, and it's breaking records, or at least, based on recent releases. So I never expected this because I assumed all the PC people would just flock to Game Pass, PC Game Pass, but I was wrong. I guess people, still see value in the full price, and good on this. Is this Infinity Ward this year?
No, it's Treyarch.
Good on Treyarch, because we know that they've had a considerable amount of time on this project, whereas we haven't seen that as much with some of the other Call of Duties. So good for Treyarch. People were excited to see Black Ops come back, and I'm happy to hear that people are enjoying it. And your approach is right, Brandon. You're recognizing the honeymoon phase, because in 2 weeks, it's when the bitching starts. But I think the Warzone thing, just to touch on it briefly, I do wonder if Warzone 3.0 came out last week or next week, what that would be like, because I kind of feel like people have cooled off on Warzone quite a bit. And when Warzone 2 came out, it was a similar sort of sentiment where popularity had gone down, but they promised all these changes, and it was going to be revitalized. It's just going to be like the heyday of Warzone. and obviously it was really popular. But I do wonder if Warzone 3.0 came out, if it would have the same reception, if it would beat out Blop 6. I don't think it would. Just guessing there, but I do feel like people have cooled off on Warzone quite a bit, and the casual people have migrated to other things. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I'll hand it over to you guys because I know you both have been playing. I have not. So yeah.
Well, one more thing I do want to say about the Warzone and Blops is I think it's very smart of them to not release it in tandem, because that would completely split their audience. I don't know that anything's been confirmed yet, but what I'm seeing online is that we're maybe going to get something smaller by the end of the year, Warzone. That's kind of the rumor mill right now. But then the much larger Verdansk is going to be next year. So I was seeing rumors swirl today. I can't substantiate any of them. Maybe someone in Discord or someone in chat can substantiate them if we've had any confirmed news. But I think a smaller map will be released this year. But then the larger expansion will be waiting till next year, which I think is in their best interest wholeheartedly. I'm in agreement with you as well, Dave. I don't know that it would have made the Black Ops 6 launch bad, but ultimately they would have been cutting into their own profits at that point. So,
I mean, Warzone definitely makes a killing, makes a ton of money, but I think if you're somebody who's like, oh, I'm so ready for a new war or a new Call of Duty thing, and you have the option at the same time of, well, I could hop into Warzone for free, or I could pay $70 for Black Ops 6. I'm just going to hop into Warzone first with my buddies and see how it goes. And then you're like, oh, I'm having a lot of fun. I don't need to buy Black Ops. So I definitely think there's some strategy there. And I think that Call of Duty, I think with any other game, Dave, I probably, and we still don't know the full numbers of everywhere, all the sales numbers, but I think many people who play Call of Duty year round. Maybe that's not all they play, but they want to hop in every now and then with the boys and hang out. So I think there's a lot of people who see the value in buying it straight up. Now there's also the reality that there are going to be a lot of people who maybe they can't swing it, they don't want it, they just wanted the guys just want to play, so you hop in with them. I'm saying guys, I mean girls too, okay? Don't get mad. But they just want to hop in and play, and oh, sure, I'll just grab Game Pass, and then, oh, guess what? My Game Pass app accidentally lapsed for a month. I forgot to cancel it, and then, oh, wow, this has a lot of games on it. I think that will be a big number, too, that draw people into Game Pass, or people who have been in Game Pass before and had let it go and everything. So that's going to be an interesting case study. I don't know if we'll get sales numbers the way we normally have overall, directly coming from Activision. I think we'll see more like hours played and how many players and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're definitely off to a very strong start for this iteration of Call of Duty. And then there was one other thing I was going to say. I don't remember what it was. Probably wasn't that important. Selling lots of games. The other thing. I think most of the people I know who have Call of Duty on Game Pass bought the additional $30 pack to give you extra skins and all that kind of stuff. Because when you're paying for Game Pass already, it doesn't feel like you're paying anything for Call of Duty. So why not spend $30 on this extra stuff? So there's always been that kind of stuff with Call of Duty in the past where you could spend extra. But if I got to shell out $70 plus another $30 on top, I'm less likely to do that than if I already don't feel like I'm spending anything to play it. And again, there's plenty of people that are just like, I'm going to have Game Pass all the time because it's a value for me. And there's other people who are only going to hop in, for a month here, a month there because that's what they want to play. Those people might be less likely. Those latter people might be less likely to buy that $30 thing. But the people who it's just like, Game Pass is like Netflix, and I just have it. A lot of those people who wouldn't normally have bought the extra $30 pack definitely did. Just anecdotally, from my perspective. So, well, speaking of Call of Duty and all sorts of stuff, we'll go ahead and hop into what we've been playing. Yeah, Brandon, why don't you kick us off here and talk about Call of Duty? Try not to fellatiate it too much.
Right. No, yeah, I've been enjoying the time I've had with it quite a bit. I don't like that I don't know how much I've played because it's all under the Call of Duty app, so I don't have a good metric on how long I played. Not that it's matters that much. But I surmise that I've played maybe between 15 and 20 hours, maybe something like
Brandon,
that.
You're I looked on Steam, and then you know how it tells you like how much time you've played recently.
Hmm.
It said you've played like 40 hours recently, which I don't think all of that was Black Ops 6. But if you can kind of guess how much you played before that of
Okay,
Modern
so maybe I
Warfare.
played like closer to 30 hours. I don't know.
It
But
wasn't Modern Warfare 3, was it?
He hasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't
Okay.
play Modern Warfare.
Just
2.
remember.
two.
you
Two.
still
I
have a restriction in place,
I
so-
remember. I remember. I'm never playing that motherfucking game. That game sucks. But no. Black Ops 6 has been great. We talked very highly about it during the beta time. And it's just more of that. I mean, it's really great to be able to finally have progression that is going to stick. I've talked many times about how important the camo grind is for me. I haven't quite gotten the swing of that yet because the weapons do take a very sizable amount of time to fully level. I don't think it's because, like some of the other games, there's a billion attachments. And there's a lot of attachments, don't get me wrong. But in some of the other games, it was just there were so many attachments, and that's why it took so long. But I feel like the weapon XP is kind of low in this game. I feel like they might do better with improving that slightly. But yeah, once I get to that point, then I'll be back on my camo grind. But it's been a lot of fun playing MP. I haven't really jumped into the campaign much. I really want to hammer down on that this week because I do want to get it done. I've heard it's not lengthy, which is not abnormal for these kind of games, but that I was seeing some stuff that it might be even shorter than I thought it was going to be, which I'm fine with. Short and sweet's fine. Don't dilute it. Don't make it bullshit. You know, just kind of make it what it is. But lastly, and maybe most surprisingly for me, someone who has been a fan of Call of Duty Zombies for many, many, many years, specifically Treyarch Zombies, and has played hundreds of hours of Treyarch Zombies alone, let alone other iterations of the zombies from all the other developers. But Zombies is back. Zombies is back in a big way, and I think that they've tried a bunch of things over the years. Some of the things that the general public has liked, I have not, and vice versa. Was it Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4? I really enjoyed the zombies quite a bit. That was kind of my last big hurrah with zombies. But yeah, they're back. They're back in a big way, and I feel like I just scratched the surface of zombies in general. I do like that now zombies has a leveling system, essentially, a reason to kind of grind almost. So not only can you level guns and get specific camos for those guns related to zombies, but you can actually level up and almost have, I don't want to say it's like an RPG mechanic, but it's kind of like a focused leveling mechanic where like your perks can continue to evolve. So there is a little bit of a grind. And a reason to keep coming back over and over again because every run can be better depending on how you perform, not just because you have a new attachment. So I think that's really cool and something that is new to zombies, that you can kind of level up your perks in zombies. So that's
Didn't
kind of
they
a
have
reason
that
to come back.
A small version of that in the last Zombies.
Maybe, but never to this extent.
Right.
Yeah. So this is like a full-fledged like upgrade trees for your colas pretty much. So that's really cool. But yeah, I guess that's most of my thoughts. I got a lot more, but I feel like I need to continue to play. So Ben, thoughts?
Well, I want to ask you some questions to
Yeah, go ahead.
to probe a little deeper here.
Sure.
How do you feel a lot of the talk about this game before it came out during the beta leading up to it was about the movement, the Omni movement.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like that has practically impacted the game on a moment-to-moment basis? You know, on a gameplay basis.
I feel like the Omni movements are really cool. But I feel like fundamentally, aside from the movement feeling really well or feeling really good, I don't think it's really. I don't feel like I need to master Omni movement, and I feel like you don't need to master Omni movement to be good at the game. Like, I still feel like all of the muscle memory that I had before was still there. I could just do some extra fancy shit. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it feels to me. And I was even seeing some discourse online today that, like, there was this clip of this guy that was like, why the fuck is everyone diving more than they need to? And he just had like 3 guys in a row dive straight towards him. And for that reason, they were not prepared to shoot correctly. So like as people get more into the Omni movement and used to it, I guess that kind of skill window will shorten. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the moment to moment is great. The movement feels good. And even though Omni movement is really cool, I feel like it's not that much of an iteration from what we already had. I'm not downplaying it. I think it's really cool. But I feel like I don't need to be the best at the movement because I feel like I already kind of had the skills I needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that will, like you said, change as that skill ceiling moves, and more people get used to it and they get more locked in and everything. But it definitely doesn't seem to be as big of a focus for many people as it was prior. And of course, there's a lot larger, maybe even less hardcore fans playing now than there were during the beta.
Right.
But it seems to be a portion of it. What do you think about the TTK? Because we'd had some discussion about that and the sweatiness necessary, of it.
Sure.
During the beta. How are you feeling now about that balance? Does it seem balanced out, or does it seem similar to how it was before?
I mean, obviously, Call of Duty is like a constant game of balancing, and that's kind of one of the more aggravating parts of the game for me, and has been in the recent years, is that things change so often, and that's kind of frustrating. I do feel like the TTK is completely on par with the other games that I enjoyed in the series, and I don't find that to be particularly different than any other game that I've played. Treyarch games do have a different feel to them in general, and I feel like this does feel like a true Treyarch game. But they certainly have done some adjustments from the beta, not even just quality of life stuff, like gameplay stuff. I know the Jackal was incredibly prevalent. It was the most overpowered weapon in the beta. And I feel like nerfing that into the ground maybe wasn't necessarily the best play, but I feel like that kind of gave many other weapons opportunities to shine, and it wasn't like I was always seeing the same person with the same gun anymore. And that's kind of good, in my opinion. I think that when you can have a diverse bag of weapons at your disposal, that's kind of when Call of Duty shines, because that's the frustration I have with the balances, is that it's the race to see which one weapon can everybody use, so that way they can get a slightly quicker kill time on you. And that's like with the rise of internet and the rise of like, this is the 5 best highest damage class, that's like a thing now. But like Call of Duty can do its best to make that balance from the bottom to the top in weapons smaller, and I want them to continue to do that because I feel like there's a good variety right now.
Last question from me. The what do you call them? Perks? Not perks, but kill streaks.
Yeah,
We've seen some new kill streaks, some old kill streaks.
Sure.
Grenades. I'm sorry. I'm talking about kill streaks and like what are the things called that you accessories?
score
The thing
streaks.
Score streaks, but I'm talking about like
equipment.
equipment. Thank you. How do you feel about the mixture of those combined in?
I will say I'm a pretty meat and potatoes kill streak kind of guy. I have been this way since the beginning of me playing Call of Duty. I like to have a UAV, I like to have a counter UAV, and I like to have a third iteration that is usually something that I don't have to control. And my reasoning for that is because I never want to stop shooting shit. Okay. So if I got to stop and put up a turret, or I got to throw down a mine, I've stopped and broken my concentration from aiming and shooting. So with a UAV, it's like reloading. I just press the button and it flicks on. I just press the counter UAV, and then I could just throw a helicopter up in the sky. So I just never want to stop shooting. So I will say, as far as kill streaks go, I don't think I've really explored a lot of the new ones yet. I don't think there's anything like groundbreaking or anything that we haven't seen something similar to before. But I will say there's some cool new additions to the equipment. There's like a mini bomb that's like a motion sensing thing. And I know that's kind of like a claymore, right? But to see it done in a different way is kind of cool. There's also like almost like motion detecting beams almost.
Alert mines or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So you like throw it down, and then when someone walks by it, there's a loud siren that plays, which is kind of cool. And there's some other things, like I saw one that was like a a spy camera, which like temporarily highlights the player through walls or something like that for a very small amount of time. So there's definitely some cool stuff they're doing. I don't think they're necessarily reinventing the wheel here, but I think that it really goes to show how much time extra, even if it was just a year based off of the other Call of Duties, that they can put into this. And who would have thought more development time equals better game? I mean, that's like a fucking crazy ideology in today's fucking game industry. But more development time does usually mean, not always, does usually mean better games. So I'm pleased so far. I'm cautionary, like I said before, boys. But yeah, I've had a great time, and I want to continue to like feel it out. You know what I mean? Because I definitely still am in the honeymoon phase, but I'm having a good time. So,
Dave, you're not playing Call of Duty. Any questions for Brandon or me? But Brandon, I like to ask Brandon the Call of Duty questions. Any comments? You don't have to. Just giving you the option.
So is TTK is shorter, right? Like it's considerably shorter than, or are you saying it just feels like Call of Duty?
it feels like Cold War to me.
Right.
Did you play Cold War? Did you like Cold War?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe the feel of these games, but as someone who has come from a large background, in a majority background of playing Infinity Ward games, they have a different feel to Treyarch games. And it's not even just TTK. I mean, that's factored in slightly, but it's just an overall feel. And I loved Cold War. So to kind of be back to that feel, if you even enjoyed that game a little bit, I think you'd enjoy this, honestly. And I would not be too intimidated by the Omni movement. I know, based off of what I said earlier, I think that maybe as time goes on, people will learn new tricks to have it kind of be a little tricky if you're not like completely sweating out. But I don't know. I haven't felt like it was any more than any other game I'd played. And that even though there is a new skill to be added, that it didn't really affect it that greatly. So, wow.
Cool.
Wow.
Wow. So most of my playtime, I was away this last weekend, but most of my playtime while I've been home has been Call of Duty. I also, while I was on the trip on the Steam Deck, played a little game called Iron Meat. It's a 2D side-scrolling Contra game. I mean, it really is Contra at its core. It's bullet hell. It's, attack. But it's Contra if Contra were modern, I guess you could say. And we haven't had a modern Contra game in a long time. Lots of power-ups, lots of big bad enemies. The game is tough as nails, I was going to say hard as nails, and I don't think that's the phrase. The game is tough as nails.
It's bricked up.
It's really rough. I only played, I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half, and I was in the car when I was playing to some extent, so I didn't get a full lot of experience in it. But I think this game is relatively cheap, and it's available for everything, including handhelds and everything. So I would at least check it out. See if it's something that looks like you would enjoy it. Like I said, lots of power-ups, lots of bad guys, and the game has the word meat in it, so you know it has to be good. But I don't have a very in-depth analysis or anything of this game, just because I've got such little time in it. But I just want to mention that I had played it thus far. And Dave, what do you have?
Yeah, well, save the best for last, I suppose. It's
Yes.
launch week. It's the most exciting time of the year for gamers because we have all these great new games coming out. So I played Deep Rock Galactic this week.
Or Carl.
Carl, yeah.
I was in a game with someone and they said, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said something like, for God's sakes, but instead of God, they said Carl.
I thought you were going to say, like, you met somebody in game and they were like, hey, I love your podcast.
No, people replace. And then I was in the Reddit forums earlier this week and somebody did it again. Like they just replaced the word God with Carl. But yeah, the Halloween event was going on, so I'd wanted to pop in and check it out. And one new cosmetic you can get through an assignment. And there's this new XP multiplier where in every mission you're in, there's this skull that's floating around, and you have to shoot it and deposit it into Molly, and then you'll get a double XP bonus. And it's really hard to shoot down. It's like a fester flea, but a lot faster and with more HP. The space rig is completely decorated, which is fun. There's pumpkins everywhere, and then there's pumpkins in the missions as well. And if you shoot them, then enemies pop out. So yeah, I love me a seasonal event, and Deep Rock Galactic always delivers. I finally promoted my gunner on my PC save file, so that's cool. I'm confident in saying I'm a gunner and engineer main, because I just don't really have much interest in the other classes. But Ben, I know you played fairly recently. Brandon, do you recall the last time you played Deep Rock, roughly?
A lot, like for more than a night.
Yeah,
Over a year.
the reason I ask is because I suggest you check it out at some point, because in my opinion, the game has changed, not fundamentally, but I feel like there are just so many more random events in the mission. So I think when we first started playing and you introduced Ben and I to the game, it was, you know, you were doing a point extraction, or you were doing an escort mission, or you were doing like the Morkite refining or something, and that was kind of it. But now I feel like almost every single mission I have, if not one or two random events that occur in. So it's like a mini boss will show up, or some sort of extraction mission or something. Like, I just feel like those things didn't pop up as much, and now they do, and it adds so many more layers to the missions. So yeah, if you were gonna play it again, I'd be interested to see if you felt like it felt a lot different. But yeah, Deep Rock is just the gift that keeps on giving. Also, I didn't play Survivor, but there was a pretty hefty update to Deep Rock.
I saw
Survivor. They added a new world and a bunch of other stuff. So if you've enjoyed Survivor, now's a good time to check it out again, or for the first time, because there's some new stuff in there. The only other thing I played, I just jumped into Gran Turismo 7 earlier today, and I just wanted to check out the weekly events, because Brandon, you mentioned that a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't actually gone in and tried those. They were okay. The races are just kind of slightly harder, menu races, where you have some criteria for the car you're going to enter with, and you start the race in dead last, and you have to go in with an overpowered car so you can get to third place before the race finishes. But so the first three races were pretty simple like that, but the fourth race, it was rally cars on Tokyo Expressway, and tire deg and fuel consumption was up to 8 times multiplier. So it was 10 laps, and there was rain, so you had to pit, or you'd run out of fuel and your tires would be completely worn out by the end. So I like that kind of stuff, because if you just do the menus and licenses and stuff like that, you never have to pit in Gran Turismo. But in Gran Turismo, I think motorsport is so important, and like managing your tires and managing your fuel consumption and deciding when you're going to pit, and what tires you're going to start with, when you're going to what tires you're going to swap to, all that that is so cool. And I love that they're putting stuff in the game that forces you to do that. So I really enjoyed seeing that kind of race in Gran Turismo. But I think I'll continue to check out the weekly stuff. I don't care about credits. I don't care about collecting cars. I just like racing on the tracks and doing cool stuff like that. So yeah, that's it for me.
Nice. One day I'll get back to Gran Turismo. I went really hard whenever I did start playing it, and I blitzed through the whole campaign. And then I wanted to get into more stuff, and I played a little bit of this and that, but I had a wheel I thought was coming, and then that deal fell through, and then I just never got back to it after that, because I was like, well, I'm not going to play without the wheel since I know it's coming. And then by the time I found out it wasn't coming, I was on to something else. So, but I do love racing games. I always have. That's some of my earliest PlayStation 1 memories is racing games. I mean, I played, Crash Bandicoot and platformers and everything, but there were a lot of racing games for PS1 for sure. I think that's it then, boys.
Yep.
I think that's everything we got.
That's it.
Don't forget, you can support us on Patreon over at patreon.com/handsomephantom. We appreciate seeing you over there. And on Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. Boys, we need a title for the show. I don't know what it should be. I imagine if you're an audio listener, or if you're any listener or watcher after this live, you're like, oh, this is a weird part of the show. I already know what it's called.
Gonecord.
Part 3. Yes, someone said Gonecord Part 3.
Okay, there we go. It's easy enough. Thank you, Alex. Or whoever said
Gonecord
that.
again. Gonecord for good.
I think we did Gonecord, but I don't think we did Gonecord Part 2, did we?
Well,
this is
that's
part
okay.
3.
This is part 3. Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
it's like
It's-
it's like Troll 2.
That's right.
Unlike old video games, this show is preserved somewhere, so we can't go back and check.
That's true, but the chances of me doing that are pretty slim. I'm going to be honest with you. All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. I'm not going to stick around afterwards tonight, but we appreciate you hanging out and being with us. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.